Kashmir is blossoming. So the onus equally is on the other region to draw lessons from Kashmir. The Kashmiris are willing to share their experiences on international platforms. One, Kashmir is such a welcoming place. You would not have seen hospitality the way you will experience it in Kashmir. You will not have seen warm people, coming forward to play with you, to laugh with you, to celebrate with you the way you will find it in Kashmir. We the people of India, including the Kashmiris, the Bengalis, the Punjabis, the Tamilians, the Keralites, the people from Andhra, from Haryana, from Punjab, every one of us is a stakeholder in Kashmir because it is a part of our country. We have to collectively go on the right path. The way ma'am has taken up social welfare activities in Hyderabad, a lot of people are taking up social welfare activities in Kashmir because that amounts to mainstreaming more and more. The question the gentleman has asked is that how can the Kashmir experience help in addressing conflict situations elsewhere in other parts of the world? Sir, Kashmiri people now realize the price that they have paid for inadvertently, voluntarily or involuntarily choosing the path of violence. Kashmir was They will tell at any international platform, if you bring Kashmiri people, they will tell you how from a highly prosperous region, Kashmir gradually deteriorated to a very dependent region where lakhs of youths, their lives were destroyed, they were killed or their lives destroyed. So when such people speak from personal example, then in other parts of the world, it becomes a lesson in what not to do. Happy societies lead by example. Unhappy societies also lead by their example. And when these Kashmiri youths, they stand at any international forum and they talk about how systematically their thought was corrupted, then it becomes a lesson to other regions. It is for the people of the other region to take the lesson whether they want to. There has to be the will. But the people of Kashmir are today talking about how amazing it is when their lives have been normalized. You would have heard the words conflict weary, WEARY, conflict weary. They are weary of conflict. They are tired of conflict. They want a normal life, and now they are getting a normal life. And that is why Kashmir is blossoming. So the onus equally is on the other region to draw lessons from Kashmir. The Kashmiris are willing to share their experiences on international platforms.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Ma'am, I have a question. Why is it that social media still works at polarizing the society, at bringing in differences across the country? And why is it that the social media, where there's one set of people who are against a particular topic, get feeds for it, another set of people get feeds for they believe it, and there is nobody who's talking about what's right and what's wrong? And even if anybody comes out and says this is wrong, the entire community in that platform tries to beat them down. What do you think of that?
Researches that have been done globally on social feeds have proved that negative feeds appeal to people far more. And hence there is this negative reinforcement. Social media is being used as a tool by these negative forces, yes, to polarize the society. It is for the user to analyze that where we are taking it. Australia has now tried an experiment where they are trying to limit the use of social media by the children. Now the entire world is watching whether Australia is going to be successful in that. But as these researchers have proved that negative feeds appeal to people more, so with greater connectivity, we are making ourselves more vulnerable to social conflict. When the world did not have so much of digital exposure, we were relatively in more peaceful zones. And now trouble can erupt. It's a threat we all are living with. It's a daily struggle. It's a daily grapple.
Thank you so much for putting a little light on that. Yes, Trishan.
Ma'am, I have two questions. One of them is, could you kindly tell us if there are any organizations that sort of play a crucial role in, say, education and de-radicalization? Education primarily, other than the government.
Yes, NGOs in Kashmir are making a significant effort to involve the youth in diverse spheres of activity. This starts from school level to skilling the youths, to making them more employable. It's very important for these organizations to be monitored, because in Kashmir, organizations which have gone ahead and done a good role in these initiatives have later been found to be using these youths and channelizing their energies into activities that compromise India's security. So monitoring is very important. But yes, there are organizations which have done which have played a valuable role, starting from school level to the imparting of initiatives, skilling initiatives and other activities of involving the youth. So separately, we can discuss some major organizations which have played a sterling role in this regard.
The second question I had was, as a person who'd probably like to travel to Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir, or tour there, if I want to go and stay there for a while and sort of volunteer in educative activities or sports ecology environment, could you please suggest some organizations that help us in do that? And I'll share that with the participants as well post the
One, Kashmir is such a welcoming place. You would not have seen hospitality the way you will experience it in Kashmir. You will not have seen warm people, coming forward to play with you, to laugh with you, to celebrate with you the way you will find it in Kashmir. Such beautiful people. And if you go to any place of stay, you'll be taken aback by the level of hospitality. The smile on their faces is not plastic. They genuinely want to interact with you. They genuinely want to give you great food. They genuinely want you to have a great time in the valley. Yes, even in those environments, there are negative experiences. All is not hunky-dory. I know of a certain bhajan group, this satsang group, that went to Kashmir, and because they were doing satsang, they were pushed into a tiny room. A group of about 70 to 80 people were pushed into a tiny room, and they had difficulty then carrying on with their satsang. There are these experiences also. So let us be aware that Kashmir is a land of opposites. Every opposite is true. They are greatly hospitable. I was sitting on Boulevard Road. It's adjoining Dal Lake, one of the hottest tourist spots, where a man, the waiter of a hotel, came and started shouting at this gentleman who was sitting outside with his family, just because he was angry. And so it's a land of opposites. It's beautiful, and then there are some trouble spots, but it's absolutely always so engaging. Kashmir is so engaging. One can never ever get bored there. And the people are largely, I will say, the people are very beautiful, very, very welcoming of any initiative. You want to go and educate them, they will welcome you with open arms.
Next question. Thank you, Trishan. From Lakshmi Narayan Nagisetti, empowerment is the top priority area in this area. It has become more of a political rather than development. What is your opinion on that, ma'am?
In Kashmir, everything is political. Let us be aware of this reality. Your clothing is political. Every aspect is political. Yes, empowerment is also political, because in a region where everything is political, Kashmiri children are far more politically aware than children in other parts of India. And why is it so? I myself could not figure it out till I read a Polish writer writing on what is the meaning of political awareness. Children who grow up, who are not threatened by their caste, not threatened by their class, as in they are affluent, they come from high caste family, they have not faced any kind of discrimination at any level, they are always apolitical in their thought. And I read this when I read a very descriptively write-up by a Polish writer. She said these people tend to be apolitical because they have never faced any threat to any aspect of their life. But in Kashmir, steadily, when the thought was, it was actually pumped into the society. It took a lot of effort. Do you know that in the 70s, in the 80s, in the early 80s, Kashmiri parents would take their children, and it used to be a celebration that we are going to Delhi to watch the Republic Day parade. How many of us did that from the rest of the country? These children recall that their parents would say, now Kashmir was extremely cold in winter. So everybody would opt to go to Delhi or Jammu or wherever they could go. And in affluent families, it would be a huge celebration that we're going to Delhi and we're going to see the Republic Day parade. They were so integrated. It took a lot of effort to erode this level of integration within Kashmir society, to strengthen the negative forces, to strengthen the separatist forces. The Kashmiris resisted. The resistance went on. But when the onslaught is too high, then one side gives way. So yes, now the integrating forces are stronger. And the biggest strengthening factor to the integrating force is the Kashmir society. As I said, they are conflict wary. They want to be part of the mainstream. They want their children to be part of the mainstream. They say this conflict has yielded us nothing. It ripped apart families. It destroyed families. Now they want to come back to normalization. They are celebrating peace and harmony now. What we take for granted, they celebrate. And every one of us must go to Kashmir to see how beautiful the people are, how beautiful the place is. Yes, please.
Harshit, please ask your question.
Yeah, namaste, ma'am. Ma'am, various initiative taken by governments in the radicalization issue to solve the radicalization issue in the Kashmir. But ma'am, government has taken initiative as zero tolerance policy and various measures, prolonged strategy. But ma'am, फिर भी वहाँ आजकल इश्यू होते रहते हैं. मेन रीजन क्या है? आज सोशल मीडिया अदर मेन रीजन क्या है? वहाँ की रेडिकलाइजेशन फिर भी कम ही नहीं हो रही है. मैम क्या रिलीजियस?
Let us understand one thing. Starting from the 70s, these efforts to destabilize India started from the 70s, from forces opposed to India. Those who wanted to destabilize India. 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000. 40 years. How can the damage done in 40 years be undone in 4 years? It cannot be. Ma'am just now asked a question that why do we have polarizing forces? Why are those polarizing forces allowed to become dominant? Because man, by his nature, wants to acquire power without accountability. What are democracies? Where power is vested in a group of people with accountability. Our governments are accountable. But in Kashmir, forces became powerful without accountability, which man desires in all regions, that I should have all power without accountability. Now, for 40 years, the damage was done. It will take us some amount of time to undo the damage, to steadily undo the damage. By being here, by joining this session, you all are putting in your energies. Trishant just now asked a question that I want to be part of an initiative where I engage with the Kashmiri youth. Ma'am would, with all the good work that you're doing, perhaps ma'am would already be thinking that how can I be part of initiatives where Kashmiri children are mainstreamed and brought into positive and affirmative activities. This is the process that all of us have collectively taken this endeavor to engage, mainstream, make them realize that they're part of a beautiful, progressive, inclusive India. So my dear, the damage undoing effort will also take some amount of time. And the lady who asked the question just before this, that why are empowerment efforts political? In a region where everything is political, even your clothing is political, every effort per se, by default, becomes political.
Okay, thank you.
Next, what do you think of Article 370, ma'am, and what is the impact? And not only the impact, do Kashmiris fear it? What is the political stand on it?
The people of Kashmir have moved beyond Article 370. They realize, more and more Kashmiris are realizing that it became a force of great damage in their lives. It was used as a political instrument to isolate Kashmir, to damage Kashmir by forces opposed to India. And now they are not really concerned about Article 370. But The politicians, for them, it is a very useful tool to keep beating upon it, to keep taking, people on the rosy path that supposedly Article 370 will be reinstated. They keep selling those dreams that we are demanding. People have started asking that what did Article 370 give to us? Youths were killed in lakhs, children's lives were destroyed, families were ripped apart, there were no jobs. All the dependence was on government jobs. Kashmir's own industry, own manufacturing, everything took a beating. From a very prosperous region, it became a very its GDP really suffered. So people have moved beyond it. But the politicians, these are political forces. It's all a game of power. So yes, there's a constituency in Kashmir. Let's not forget that there is a constituency in Kashmir which has separatist tendencies, and it is not sufficiently weak till now. It is there, and it is not as weak as we would think it is. So that constituency, they want to strengthen separatist tendencies. They want 370 to be back so that it can be used in the same way that the way it was used before, to politically destabilize, and efforts to politically destabilize and weaken India. Fortunately, we are a big nation, we are a strong nation, so we did not allow these forces to damage us. But within Kashmir, they did a lot of damage. This needs to be understood.
Thank you so much for giving a very balanced view on this. There's a question from Santushti. When people from all over India can live in parts of countries like Bombay, Delhi, Hyderabad, why not in J&K? Is it the barrier for working and achieving empowerment of all? Your suggestion, please.
Things are not black and white ever. A society, there's a lot of gray in society. Why was terrorism brought into Kashmir? To break Kashmir from India? And why are efforts still ongoing by anti-India forces so that Kashmir is isolated? It has complete homogeneity and it is isolated. So yes, it is. Now you can buy land. There are, after the removal of Article 370, there are processes by which it is possible to buy land in Kashmir or to lease land. But the point is, what is holding industries back, what is holding manufacturing back, is that it is still not safe. The police, the security forces, the army, the other paramilitary forces, they are trying to make Kashmir a safe space. It is an endeavor of the government, but we have to be cognizant of the realities that what is bracketed as outsiders in Kashmir are deliberately attacked to spread fear. And as I said, the damage done in 40 years cannot be undone in 4 years. It will have its own gestation period. The way the Kashmiri people resisted, thousands of them died just because they questioned that what is this going on? What road are you taking us on? But they were systematically killed. Those voices were systematically silenced. So when you start to undo the damage, it will have its own gestation period. Yes, it may be theoretically possible for you to buy land, but it is not entirely safe, and that is impeding the efforts to normalize the situation.
My question is that, do you think the negligence of government towards the youth lead to radicalization during the 90s? And the fact that government tried to suppress the emotions of youngsters, did it lead to radicalization?
It is so convenient to label the government as being negligent. It is so convenient. But it is sad to say, and this comes from victims of radicalization. Standing on the outside, it is very easy to say that, blame the government. But when you talk to people who went through the process of radicalization, whose lives were destroyed, whose careers were destroyed, so many of them were killed. When you talk to them, they tell you that the fault lay in our social environment. I will tell you an incident. This young man who, again, he became a very aggressive stone pelter. He was standing in the town square in Pulwama, and he says that I was standing there with my friends when a very eminent gentleman of the area came. His son was standing with these 4 or 5 young men. This eminent gentleman of the area came, and this gentleman would shout from the mic about, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to save Kashmir, you must lay down your lives for Kashmir. The way radicalization, the environment is spun around, right? This gentleman would shout from the mics. Now, this man's son was standing with these 4 or 5 youngsters. This man said to me, he says, Didi, I was standing right there. This gentleman comes, The first thing he does is he catches hold of his son. And Kashmir is a very simple society. They weren't given into your political correctness. They were a very simple society. Right there in the town square, he gave his son 2 hard slaps. First 2 hard, tight slaps. Then he pulled him by his ear and he says, don't you have any mind of your own? Don't you have any intelligence that you're standing here while you have to prepare for your medical entrance exam? This man says to me, he says, Didi, I was stunned that just about 1 hour ago, this gentleman was shouting from the mic that you have to lay down your life for the protection and freedom of Kashmir. And now he's pulling away his own son who has to prepare for an medical entrance exam. And what are we supposed to do? We are supposed to go and lay down our lives for the freedom of Kashmir. So in Kashmir, people, they talk to you, they say that in Kashmir, everybody wants the neighbor's son to fight for freedom. The neighbor's son should fight for freedom. My son should become a doctor or an engineer. The neighbor's daughter, she should get married to a freedom fighter, but my daughter should get married to a man in a government job. This may be new to you. This is everyday familiar talk among the people of Kashmir, that the neighbor's son should go and become a stone pelter. So these are the dynamics which have been pushing and pulling Kashmiri youths in diverse directions. Why is it? Just pause and ask this question ever. Why is it that only youngsters in their, lads in their teens or youngsters in their 21, 22, 23, 24, why is it that only they are sucked into the radicalization ecosystem? Why is it that the elder Kashmiris are not becoming part of it? Because by the time you're 27, 28, 30, 31, 32 and above, you become aware of how the whole terror ecosystem is playing around you. It is only when you're 16, 17, 18, you're, of the fire of youth, you're still vulnerable, your ideas are not completely formed, that you can be pulled into these negative areas, into these negative spheres. It is very easy to lay the blame on the government. But how much was being done at the social level, at the family level? These victims of radicalization tell you that I wish our parents, our teachers, who were drawn from the same society, had not taught us. They were teaching the students to be so-called freedom fighters. So-called. They were teaching the students to be freedom fighters, and they were telling their own children to prepare for medical entrance, engineering entrance. So before you blame the government, it is important to look within, introspect.
Yeah. Usha, go, carry on, please.
What is the education system over there in Jammu and Kashmir? And you know about the curriculum education system which we have in our past days. So that is totally based on ethical, value-based education system which we have followed throughout our lifetime. But is it possible to implement that in J&K?
The education system, sad to say, has played a major role in Kashmir in radicalization. The radicalization forces became part of the system. When a whole society becomes radicalized, see, Kashmir would not have reached where it reached if almost the entire society had not got radicalized, and the people who were not radicalized, who were just fence-sitters, who were trying to draw back from this madness, were killed, were silenced. So the only vocal forces, the dominant forces, were the forces of radicalization, and steadily they started spreading their influence. Now it was the same people who came into the government systems. It was the same people who came into the government jobs. It was these same people who became teachers. It became the same people who became the revenue officers, the health officers. And people who were not de-radicalized, who stood with India, were afraid to speak up. Even now they're afraid to speak up. Because it is in Kashmir, it is far easier to be a radicalized person, but now the government has stepped in. When you say a zero tolerant policy, why zero tolerance? Why this zero? Because the space given for the democratic space, the Kashmiris are the first ones to tell me, ma'am, the democratic space is being misused. You do not use the democratic space to spread anti-India feelings. Now, if the democratic space is being used to that end, then the democratic space is being misused. I think it would be individuals like us who are responsible to provide ethical. Yes, every one of us, the Kashmiris as much, we the people of India are the biggest stakeholders in Kashmir. We the people of India. We the people of India, including the Kashmiris, the Bengalis, the Punjabis, the Tamilians, the Keralites, the people from Andhra, from Haryana, from Punjab. Every one of us is a stakeholder in Kashmir because it is a part of our country. we have to collectively go on the right path. The way ma'am has taken up social welfare activities in Hyderabad, a lot of people are taking up social welfare activities in Kashmir, because that amounts to mainstreaming more and more.